So, ladies and gentlemen, this is class number 2. I'll be continuing from the current affairs of economics from my last class. After that, I'll just quickly glance through PT 365 of vision also, right? So let's have a look at what are the things that we have. Yesterday, I discussed what is dividend equalization fund. So dividend equalization fund is a term which is related to the so-called urban cooperative banks. Normally, whenever you invest in something, you'll get dividends for the profits that the company makes. But if you are not carrying that profits to home, and if you are again reinvesting, then the capital will get accumulated. On that capital, next time when you get profit, you will be asking more dividends. This is called dividend equalization fund. Normally, some UCBs who has this ownership, they are doing this type of things rather than opening for everyone, for all the capitalists or for all the investors. Only few people are doing this. As a result, as it is not common to everyone, RBI said universal commercial banks, cooperative banks should stop this thing. This is the first one. Now, here I was discussing my last component, what RBI said. First of all, what are the reports of RBI? The reports of RBI are financial stability report. Financial stability report is given twice in a year. So remember what are the reports of RBI? Financial stability report, it is released twice in a year. Financial inclusive index is one thing that it has given. Economic stability report is another thing that it gives. Household financial expenditure survey. Household financial expenditure survey is again given by RBI. So financial stability report 2 times in a year. Financial economic stability report is one thing. Household financial expenditure survey is also given by RBI. Now what RBI said recently is small finance banks can be converted into universal commercial banks. Universal banks. Now what is an universal bank? A bank which will be having operations throughout the country. They will not have neither geographical restrictions nor they have transaction restrictions. In order to start a finance universal bank in India, at present you require 1000 crores capital. Take for example, universal banks are classified into 3 segments. The first segment is the so-called public sector banks, second one is private sector banks, third one is foreign banks. Last year they asked a question on foreign banks. This time we can expect a similar type of question. So public sector banks are the banks which are operated by government. There are 12 public sector banks in the country. Private sector banks are the banks which are operated by the so-called private individuals. In India, as of now, there are 21. Foreign banks are the banks which are incorporated outside and they do have their banking operations inside the country after taking RBI permission. However, in this board, there has to be 50% of Indians. And in this 50% also, 70% has to be non-residential Indians in the board. Then RBI will permit a foreign bank to be operated in India. So there are almost 45 foreign banks operating in India at present. This is the basic static component about universal banks. So in order to get a license for a bank, what is the minimum capital that is required? You require 1000 crores as capital. But if you go for the differential banks, there are differential banks in the country. Differential banks are again classified into 2 types. The first 4 types. First one is regional rural banks. RRBs is in news. It is very important. Second one is local area banks. Third one is small finance banks. The fourth one is payment banks. Right. RRBs were established way back in the year 1975 through RRB Act. Government. President of India has passed an ordinance in 1975. Then the bank has been established in 1976 as such. Act was made in 1976. Banks were established in 1975 through presidential ordinance. Right. That was the first thing. After that, what we have seen, local area banks which were established in the year 1996 during Dr. Manmohan Singh when he was acting as finance minister. There are only 2 local area banks at present. One is in Andhra Pradesh, the second one is in Telangana. The third one is small finance banks. What is a small finance banks? For small finance bank and payment bank, the minimum capital that is required to establish is rupees 200 crores. Right. Now, these type of small finance banks can be converted to the so-called universal banks if it fulfills the following conditions. The first following condition is the small finance bank should have a minimum capital of 1000 crores. Because universal banks require 1000 crores. Second one, that the small finance bank should be a scheduled bank. Now, what is a scheduled bank? Under RBI Act 1934, Section 2 contains certain banks which are fulfilling 2 conditions. Under RBI Act 1934, there are certain banks which are fulfilling certain conditions. What are the conditions under RBI Act 1934 you have to fulfill in order to get the status of a scheduled bank? First one is you should have minimum capital of rupees 5 lakhs. Minimum capital of 5 lakhs, and the second condition that you require is no default history. This is static component. Again, to get scheduled banks, what is the requirements? In order to get requirements of a scheduled bank, the first requirement is you should be have no default history, and you should have a minimum capital of 5 lakhs. If you do fulfill these conditions, then that banks will be listed under section 2 of RBI Act 1934. All the banks which are listed under section 2 of RBI Act are called as scheduled banks. So a small finance bank should be scheduled bank, and it should have a minimum capital of 1000 crores. The moment it is a scheduled bank, it will have no default history. The fourth condition that it has to fulfill is it should have not more than 3% of gross NPAs and not more than 1% of net NPAs. The bank should not have not more than 3% of gross NPAs and not greater than 1% of net NPAs. What is the difference between gross NPA and net NPA? Gross NPA is the total NPAs of the banks. Net NPAs are the part of gross, that is gross NPAs minus provisioning amount is equal to net NPA. Gross NPAs minus provisioning amount is equal to net NPA. What is an NPA? Non-performing assets are those assets where I have given the loan. As a bank, I have given the loan, but you are not paying my principal rate or interest rate continuously for 90 days. So whenever you don't pay my principal or interest continuously for 90 days, that type of accounts are called non-performing assets. For agriculture, this is measured at the so-called 180 days. Two crop seasons they measure for agriculture seasons. So in order to declare as an NPA for agricultural loans, 2 crop seasons or 1 long crop season, that is 6 months. Short crop season is for 3 months. Short crop season is for 3 months. Long crop season is for 6 months. 6 months means 180 days. Hence they take one long crop season for NPAs for agriculture. For other loans, they will take only for 3 months. So if the total NPAs of the banks are called gross NPAs, the net NPAs means in that gross NPAs, if you subtract the provisioning amount, you will derive at net NPAs. 1 minute. Next one is, so gross NPAs should not be more than 3% of the total loans, total NPAs, and net NPAs should not be greater than 1% of the total loans that it has extended. Net NPAs is equal to gross NPAs minus provisioning amount. What is provisioning amount? That part of the deposits that has to be kept aside over the so-called reserve ratios in order to ensure that that part of the deposits that has to be kept over the reserve ratios to meet NPA crisis is known as provisioning amount. ఎప్పుడైతే లోన్స్ ఎన్పిఎస్ ఎక్కువగా అవుతున్నాయో అటువంటప్పుడు ఆర్బీఐ ఏం చెప్తుందంటే బ్యాంక్స్కి ఇంకొంచెం డబ్బులు డిపాజిట్లో నుంచి పక్కన పెట్టుకోవాల్సి వస్తుంది. ఎందుకు? ఎన్పిఏ క్రైసిస్ని మీట్ అవ్వడానికి. ఈ ఎక్స్ట్రా అమౌంట్ నేను ఏదైతే ఎక్కువ పెడుతున్నానో ఎన్పిఎస్ని మీట్ అవ్వడానికి ఆ అమౌంట్ ఏమంటామంటే ప్రొవిజనింగ్ అమౌంట్ అనేసి అంటాం. దట్ ఎక్స్ట్రా పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద డిపాజిట్స్ దట్ ఐ వాజ్ ఆస్క్డ్ టు కీప్ అసైడ్ to meet NPA crisis is known as provisioning amount. Mari extra amount antam, extra denikante extra. Normally you have to maintain reserve ratios. Apart from that you have to keep extra, right? So that is what provisioning amount is. So recent economic survey, latest economic survey em cheppindante they have given 4 paragraphs on NPAs this year. As a result, this is very important. What they say is all the banks in India today have good amount of provisioning amount. As a result, all the banks are in a very secured condition and in a very safe condition. So banks గురించి ఈసారి అడిగితే ఎన్పిఎస్ బాంబులుగా తగ్గాయి, బ్యాంక్స్ అన్ని కూడా మంచిగా పర్ఫామ్ చేస్తున్నాయన్న ఆప్షన్స్ అన్ని కూడా కరెక్ట్ అవుతాయి. సో ఇఫ్ దే ఆస్క్ ఎ క్వశ్చన్ ఆన్ బ్యాంక్స్ దిస్ ఇయర్, వాట్ ఎవర్ ద ఆప్షన్ దట్ స్పీక్స్ అబౌట్ పాజిటివ్లీ ఆన్ ద బ్యాంకింగ్ సెక్టర్, దట్ ఈస్ the NPAs were reduced as well as all the banks are decently performing well. The banking position in India according to the economic survey is in a positive tone, that is they are very optimistic and they are very good. As a result, all the options in all the positive options in the answer sheet will become correct, in the question paper will become correct. That is one technique to remember this year as far as banking sector is considered, the government's official stand is. So small finance bank should have this. And the last component to fulfill a small finance bank to enter into universal banks is it should have listed in stock exchange. So stock exchange listed company. So that bank should be listed in stock exchange. This is important. Stock exchange listed. Next, once you fulfill these conditions, a minimum capital of 1000 crores, scheduled bank condition, gross NPA is not greater than 3%, net NPA is not greater than 1%, and if you are a scheduled entity or if you are registered in the so-called stock exchanges, then you will get automatically the permission to become an universal bank. You can go and tap on the doors of RBI. This is called on-tap license. No need to wait for the RBI to call for banking licenses. You can go to RBI and you can go for tapping the RBI systems, and then by fulfilling these conditions, RBI will check it and they will give you license. So what is on-tap license system? On-tap license system means banks can approach RBI at any point of time, tap on the door of the RBI to apply for banking license. Now under what act a banking license is given? Banking Regulation Act 1949. That is how banks are regulated by RBI in the country. RBI is regulating the banks in the country. So RBI is called as banker to the banks. Enduku banker to the banks? Because banks get a license from RBI. RBI is the lender of last resort to the banks. RBI acts the so-called gives the loans to the banks at repo rate. They can give the loans at beyond the repo rate at marginal standing facility, and banks can keep their money at RBI through reserve repo rate, reverse repo rate. All these four things makes RBI as lender to the banker to the bank. This is what we have. So the next term that it is in use is MIBOR, Mumbai Interbank Offer Rate. Right. So what is this MIBOR? So MIBOR is, say for example, one bank requires urgent money. Say today it is 22nd of April. All of a sudden SBI required some money, but it doesn't have that operating money. So what SBI will do? It will borrow from Canara Bank. So Canara Bank is giving money to SBI. Now whenever one bank gives money to other bank, they will collect the interest rate. So whenever I give money to you, I will collect interest rate. Whenever you give it to me, you will collect interest rate from me. So whenever a bank gives to other bank, they will collect interest rate. Now what is that interest rate that the banks are collecting? This is called interbank offer rate. The interest rate at which one bank gives interest to the other bank is called interbank offer rate. So in India, all the banks will lend to the other banks at a predetermined interest rate, and that predetermined interest rate is called Mumbai Interbank interest rate. So Mumbai is the financial capital of India. As a result, all the banks situated here, or the major banks situated here, will determine what should be the interest rate. So MIBOR is determined by the banks situated in Mumbai, and all the country banks will be giving loans to other banks at this interest rate MIBOR. Next one is LIBOR, means London Interbank Offer Rate. For all the banks situated in United Kingdoms, the banks will lend to other banks at an interest rate known as London Interbank Offer Rate. The next one is Shanghai Interbank Offer Rate, SHIBOR. Next, Tokyo Interbank Offer Rate. So the concept is same. The only thing that you are changing is the city where that is being operated. So remember the terms after this. Priority sector lending is in news. We already know basics of priority sector. Priority sector was introduced by RBI in the year 1972 in order to overcome the problems of lack of credit or lack of access to agriculture in the initial years. So priority sector lending was in use. It is established in 1972. Which sectors comes under priority sector lending? The sectors which cover under priority sector lending is school children's education, education loans, home loans, vulnerable section loans such as women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, these loans. Next one is renewable energy loans, startups, social infrastructure like street lights, drinking water, sanitation facilities, community roads like this. Next one is agriculture. Next one is exports, agro-based industries, that is called food processing industries. These are the basic core industries that we have in India. Priority sector lending norms that you have. So introduced in 1972, PSL. Please have a look at what are the PSL sectors that are covered. Now there are two commissions or committees related to priority sector lending. Important. Gadgil committee is related to priority sector lending. Ghosh committee is related to priority sector lending. Just remember, Gadgil committee and Ghosh committee, they are related to priority sector lending. Next important, very important term, variable repo rate. Now what is variable repo rate? Recently this was in Hindu newspaper, 3 times or 4 times they have given this. Now, what is this variable repo rate? Variable repo rate means the rate normally. What is repo rate? The rate at which RBI will be lending to the banks is called repo rate. The rate at which RBI takes money from the banks is called reverse repo rate. Now, whenever RBI is lending money, there will be every bank will have fixed quota of giving this or getting this money through repo rate. Now, recently, as India was facing deflation crisis, there was liquidity crunch in the banks. Banks దగ్గర డబ్బులు లేవు అన్నమాట. So what RBI did is RBI has released 25,000 crores into the banking system. Now, how banks can get this 25,000 crores? For all the banks together, they have got 25,000 crores. How you can get access to this 25,000 crores of RBI? You go to RBI as a bank and you take loans from RBI. So RBI will be giving you. This is apart from your repo rate. So this is called variable repo rate. Normally, repo rate interest rates will be fixed by RBI. Here also the interest rates, variable repo rate interest rate is fixed by RBI. However, the thing that you have to remember is variable repo rate is less than the repo rates. The interest rates of variable interest rate is less than the repo rate. So these things we have to remember. Next one is whenever you borrow under variable repo rate, the duration for borrowing is 1 to 14 days. So 1 to 14 days is the duration for variable repo rate. So this is one more thing. So variable repo rate means it is an liquidity injecting scheme of RBI into the so-called banks. 25,000 crores which has injected. Banks can approach RBI to get loans under variable repo rate. Variable repo rate interest rate is less than reverse repo rate interest rates. The duration for borrowings is 1 to 14 days. So once you have borrowed, it will be for a short-term borrowing. Next, apart from that, you have some economic survey current affairs again. What are these? India is the fifth largest economy in terms of GDP as of now. India is the fifth largest economy in terms of GDP as of now. India is the third largest economy in terms of PPP. India is the third largest economy in terms of PPP. The first country is China, second country is USA in terms of PPP. So China is followed by USA. Second largest road network is present in India. First largest road network is in USA. Second largest road network is present in India. In Asia, India has largest rail network. In Asia, India has largest rail network. The total external debt, according to the latest budget, is 660 billion US dollars. The total external debt of India is 660 billion US dollars. Now, if you go for external debt or borrowings of Government of India can be according to Article 292 and 293 of Indian Constitution. According to Article 292 of Indian Constitution, Government of India can borrow from anywhere by keeping Consolidated Fund of India as security. You can keep Consolidated Fund of India as security, and you can borrow internally as well as externally. Union can borrow from internally or externally, but state governments, according to Article 293, has to borrow only from inside the country. And state governments, if they have an outstanding loans, according to Article 293 Clause 3, they have to take the permission of RBI in order to borrow, or finance minister in order to borrow. These are the things that we should remember. So the total external debt of Government of India is 660 billion US dollars. Now, in which form Government of India is borrowing more and more? We are borrowing more and more in the form of dollars followed by rupees. We are borrowing more and more in the form of dollars followed by rupees followed by yen, Japanese yen. This is how the currencies in which we are borrowing. And one more thing that we have to remember is the total external loans taken by Government of India is just 6% of the total loans. So internal loans dominate for Government of India compared to the external loans. So మనం బయట నుంచి తీసుకున్న అప్పుల కంటే భారతదేశంలో తీసుకున్న అప్పులే ఎక్కువ గవర్నమెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా. ఇది ఒకటి మంచి పరిణామమా కాదా? వెదర్ దిస్ ఇస్ ఎ గుడ్ సిచ్యువేషన్ ఆర్ నాట్? ఎస్, బారోయింగ్ ఇంటర్నలీ ఈజ్ ఫార్ బెటర్ దాన్ borrowing externally, because if you borrow externally, then one of the biggest problem that it arises is our sovereignty will be at the threat. So in order to overcome these problems, Government of India borrows very less from externally and Government of India borrows more from internally. These are the things that we have as far as economic survey is considered, and some terminology which is related to it. Apart from that, so I hope you got this thing. Next. Let me share one more thing. So this year, one of the most important current affairs is Nirmala Sitharaman has presented a budget continuously for 6 times, including the interim budgets. She became 8 times. She has presented the budget. So continuously, the finance minister who has presented the budget for this much amount of time was Nirmala Sitharaman. In that context, what they can ask is they can ask the questions related to it. So, what are the questions that is in news this year, ladies and gentlemen? They can ask some static component as far as who is the one who has presented the budget for the large number of times, who is the finance minister who has presented this budget continuously for longest times, who was our first finance minister, what is the Lok Sabha which is having highest tenure, what is the Lok Sabha which was having lowest tenure. These are the things which are in current affairs, because even last year there were elections. In that context, they can ask these type of questions. So let's quickly have a glance at this. First of all, this was prepared by our student, Mr. Sagar. Thank you very much. So have a look at it. Facts according to the trends. Who is the Prime Minister who has served this country for the longest time? According to the length, it was Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru from Indian National Congress who served continuously for longest term. That is 16 years, 286 days. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was the longest Prime Minister who served in office, and this 16 years, 286 days was continuous. Then Indira Gandhi continuously 11 years, 59 days. In total years also, Jawaharlal Nehru was first. Indira Gandhi 11 years, 59 days continuously, and total years 15 years, 350 days, which means second one. So just remember, in longest continuous terms, Jawaharlal Nehru is the longest serving Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi was the second. Narendra Modi will cross, this year. Narendra Modi is the third one. So in terms of total years of Prime Ministership also, you have the same order. This is first thing that we have to remember. Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Narendra Modi, Dr. Manmohan Singh, the longest serving Prime Ministers of the country. Second one, first budget of independent India was conducted before the adoption of Constitution. So before Constitution was adopted on 26th of November 1949. So before this itself, Mr. R.K. Chenmugam Chetty has presented the budget. Has presented the first budget is R.K. Chenmugam Chetty. After that, in Republic of India, once we have this adoption of Constitution, the first budget was presented by Mr. John Mathai. First Finance Minister of India, Mr. R.K. Chenmugam Chetty. Finance Minister who presented the budgets to most number of times, very, very important. Finance Minister who presented budget most number of times is Morarji Desai. He presented 10 budgets in total, 8 annual budgets, 2 interim budgets. 8 annual budgets, 2 interim budgets he has presented. So the Finance Minister who presented the most union budgets is Morarji Desai. Next, look, Morarji Desai is the one who has presented the maximum number of budgets, followed by Mr. P. Chidambaram 9 times, followed by Miss Nirmala Sitharaman 8 times. But the speciality of Nirmala Sitharaman is continuously she has presented this. Whereas Mr. Morarji Desai and P. Chidambaram, they were discontinuous trends. So the finance minister who has submitted or who has presented budget continuously for the longest term is Nirmala Sitharaman. This is the difference. If it is in total continuous and discontinuous, it is Morarji Desai. Discontinuous ante మధ్యలో స్టాప్ అయింది, గవర్నమెంట్ చేంజ్ అవుతుంది లేకపోతే ఫైనాన్స్ మినిస్టర్ చేంజ్ అవడం వల్ల, అటువంటిది డిస్కంటిన్యూస్ అంటాం అనమాట. బట్ ద ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ హూ హ్యాస్ ఫైనాన్స్ మినిస్టర్ హూ హ్యాస్ గివెన్ దిస్ కంటిన్యూస్లీ ఫర్ లాంగెస్ట్ టైమ్ ఇస్ నిర్మలా సీతారామన్. కంటిన్యూస్ అయితే నిర్మలా సీతారామన్ గారు అవుతారు, లేదు లాంగెస్ట్ టైమ్స్ వచ్చేసి ఇర్రెస్పెక్టివ్ ఆఫ్ కంటిన్యూస్ డిస్కంటిన్యూస్ అయితే మొరార్జీ దేశాయ్ గారు అవుతారు. నెక్స్ట్, no, other facts of Nirmala Sitharaman ji is she is the first full-time woman finance minister of India. It should be noted that former prime minister Srimati Indira Gandhi also was a finance minister. However, for a very short period, she was finance minister. Indira Gandhi also held the portfolio of finance ministry. Next, she is the first woman. Nirmala Sitharaman is the first woman, obviously, because paperless currency or digital budget was presented recently. So she becomes the first one. Next. So this is the order. Morarji Desai, P. Chidambaram, Nirmala Sitharaman and Sri Pranab Mukherjee. These are the persons who have submitted the budget for number of times. Right. These are the things that we have to remember as far as the trends in India is considered. This is some trend analysis. Who is the longest serving prime minister and who is the longest serving finance minister of the country. Next. So remember some more facts. First one is World Gold Council is in news. World Gold Council. World Gold Council is in news. Now, Government of India has become the world's largest consumer of gold. Government of India has become the world's largest consumer of gold. So Government of India has become the world's largest consumer of gold, and it was said that the total consumption of gold in the country is going to become 850 tons. 850 tons of gold was consumed in the last financial year. Now, who has said this? India has consumed this amount of gold. There was an organization called World Gold Council. World Gold Council has projected that India has consumed the largest amount of gold. So, who is the top producer of gold? The top producer of gold in the world is China, followed by Australia, followed by Russia. China, Australia and Russia are the countries which are producing top amount of gold. So China, Australia and Russia are the countries which are producing large amount of gold. Next one. India is the second largest consumer of gold, followed by China. The first largest is China. In the consumption and production, China is the one. But in terms of the so-called production and consumption, China is the first one. But in terms of consumption, India is the second largest country. Next one. Gift City. Remember yesterday I was telling about Gift City. Gift City is present where? Gift City is present in the so-called Gujarat. So remember, Gift City is in Gujarat. So it was in Gift City, it is like just like financial center. All the major financial institutions will be present here. It is also known as International Financial Services Authority. International Financial Services Authority is also present here. Gift City was established in 2015 in Gujarat. Gift City was established in 2015 in Gujarat. Now, what is the specialty of this Gift City? Gift City అంటే ఏం లేదు, హైదరాబాద్లో ఐటీ సిటీ ఏ విధంగా ఉందో అంటే ఒక ఏరియాని డిజిగ్నేట్ చేసేసి ఆ ఏరియాలో మొత్తం ఫైనాన్షియల్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ పెడతారనమాట. దాన్నే ఫైనాన్షియల్ సిటీ ఆర్ ఫైనాన్షియల్ హబ్ అనేసి అంటుంటాం. సో గిఫ్ట్ సిటీ అంటే అటువంటిది గుజరాత్లో ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ చేశారు ఆఫ్టర్ ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్ మోడీ హ్యాస్ బికమ్ ద ప్రైమ్ మినిస్టర్, రైట్? So in this they have established International Financial Services Authority. So International Financial Services Authority is present in this. Now what is this International Financial Services Authority? International Financial Services Authority is one authority which will be having the ultimate powers to regulate all the financial institutions in the country. So ఏవైతే financial institutions ఇండియాలో ఉన్నాయో వారిని అన్నింటినీ కూడా కంట్రోల్ చేసే అథారిటీ ఇదనమాట. మరి ఇంటర్నేషనల్ ఫైనాన్షియల్ సర్వీసెస్ అథారిటీ, ఈజ్ ఇట్ ఏ స్టాట్యూటరీ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్ ఆర్ ఈజ్ ఇట్ ద సో కాల్డ్ constitutional institution or non-constitutional institution? IFSA is a statutory institution. Remember, IFSA is a statutory institution established under IFSA Act 2019. IFSA Act 2019. So IFSA is a single regulator. So gift city ఉండేటివన్నీ పాజిటివ్స్ ఉంటాయి, ఇండియన్ ఫైనాన్షియల్ సర్వీసెస్ అథారిటీ ఉండేటివన్నీ కూడా పాజిటివ్ ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. నెక్స్ట్ వన్, రీసెంట్లీ మహారత్న, మినీ రత్న, నవరత్నాస్ ఆర్ ఇన్ న్యూస్. So how to categorize eligibility for Navaratna or Mini Ratna, that they can ask. So recently IREDA, Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency, Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency has become the so-called Navaratna. Navaratnaలలో ఒకటి ఇదైంది. Now how to give Navaratna status? First should be, it should fulfill the conditions of Mini Ratna. First it should be a Mini Ratna to obtain Navaratna. Next one is, it should have a composite score of 60%. It should have a score of 60% in the ratings of the so-called Government of India. So there will be Government of India's agency which will be identifying all the sectors in the country or all the industries in the country. There it should have got 60% of ratings. Now once you fulfill these conditions, then you will have the so-called Navaratna status. Mini Ratna status undali. Second one వచ్చేసి, it should have a composite score of 60 or above. Right. మరి మినీ రత్న స్టేటస్ ఇప్పుడు ఇస్తారు. మినీ రత్నాస్ ఇన్ ద కంట్రీ ఆర్ క్లాసిఫైడ్ ఇంటూ టూ టైప్స్, మినీ రత్న కేటగిరీ 1, మినీ రత్న కేటగిరీ 2. Mini Ratna category 1 and Mini Ratna category 2. What is a Mini Ratna company? Mini Ratna means any public sector entity which has made profits in the last 3 years. గత 3 ఏళ్లుగా ప్రాఫిట్స్ లో నడుస్తున్నటువంటి కంపెనీ, ప్లస్ బిఫోర్ పేయింగ్ ద ట్యాక్స్ ద టోటల్ ప్రాఫిట్ హ్యాస్ టు బి 30 crores. Before paying the tax, the total profit has to be 30 crores. Then you will classify that industry as Mini Ratna company. సో నవరత్న రావాలంటే మినీ రత్న స్టేటస్ 1 ఉండాలన్నమాట. మరి మినీ రత్న స్టేటస్ రావాలి అంటే ట్యాక్స్ పే చేయకముందు యూ షుడ్ హ్యావ్ మినిమం ప్రాఫిట్ ఆఫ్ 30 crores. 30 కోట్ల లాభాలు వచ్చి ఉండాలి ట్యాక్స్ పే చేయక మునుపు. తర్వాత వచ్చేసి లాస్ట్ 3 yearsగా యూ షుడ్ బి రన్నింగ్ ఇన్ ప్రాఫిట్స్. మినీ రత్న కేటగిరీ 2 means last 3 years you should be making profits and you should have a positive net worth. ఉండాలి. 30 కోట్ల లాభం రాకపోయినా కూడా పాజిటివ్ టర్న్ ఓవర్ అనేది ఉండాలన్నమాట. అప్పుడు మినీ రత్న కేటగిరీ 2 అంటాం. 30 కోట్లు ఉంటే మినీ రత్న 1 అంటాం. సో ఇన్ ఆర్డర్ టు బీ సెలెక్టెడ్ యాజ్ నవరత్న, ఇట్ హ్యాస్ టు బి మినీ రత్న 1. నవరత్న ఎవరికి ఇచ్చారు అంటే రీసెంట్గా IREDAకి నవరత్న స్టేటస్ ఇచ్చారు. దిస్ ఈజ్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. నెక్స్ట్ వన్, ఇండెక్స్ ఆఫ్ 8 core industries is in news. What is this index of 8 core industries? Core industries data. There are 8 core industries. Please go through what are the 8 core industries and who will give this data. The data for core industries is given by Office of Economic Advisor under Ministry of Commerce. So Ministry of Commerce, DPIIT, Office of Economic Advisor will be giving core industrial data. What are the core industries that you have in India according to their so-called weightage? First one is refineries, R. Second one is electricity, E. Third one is steel, S. Fourth one is coal, crude oil, natural gas, cement and fertilizers. So last is fertilizers in the decreasing order of the so-called weightage. So core industries have some weightage. There are 8 core industries. First one is refineries, electricity, steel, coal, crude oil, natural gas, cement and fertilizers. After this, core industries have 40% of share in the total index of industrial production. So in the index of industrial production, core industries occupy 40% of weightage. Now who gives index of industrial production data? Index of industrial production data is given by the so-called NSO. Index of industrial production data is given by NSO. So these are the things that you have to remember as far as core industries is considered. So this is another term that we have to remember. After this, green shootings is in news. Green shooting, the term green shooting is in news. What is green shooting? Green shooting means recovery of economy once it has been went into downward trend. So RBI has used the term recently saying that the national rural economy is in the green shootings. Green shootings ante ఒకసారి పడిన తర్వాత మళ్ళా లేయడమే green shootings అనేసి అంటాం అన్నమాట. This is another term that we have to remember. Green shootings is in news. What is that green shootings? Green shootings is nothing but turning back of the economy after it has fallen. Next one, orange economy is in news. What is it? Orange, O-R-A-N-G-E. Orange economy is also known as creative economy. So what is orange economy or creative economy? Knowledge based economic activities నేమంటామంటే orange economy అంటాం. Take for example, if economy is being run on the so called intellectual property rights, and if you are generating more and more intellectual property rights, and if you are creating some money, then that economy is called orange economy. Next one, recently BIS, Bureau of International Standards or Bureau of Indian Standards, BIS is Bureau of Indian Standards. It said that there has to be ISI mark for the so-called steel products that you are producing in the country. ISI mark is given by BIS. Bureau of Indian Standards gives ISI mark. So this is previous year question. Who gives which mark? BIS gives ISI mark. Apart from ISI, Bureau of Indian Standards also gives some other marks known as hallmark. Hallmark is given for gold or metals. Next one, it also gives eco mark. Environment friendly products ki iche mark eco mark అనేసి అంటాం అన్నమాట. So ISI mark is given by Bureau of Indian Standards. So this is what we have as far as the current affairs is considered. Right. This is enough, guys. 45 minutes. This is more than enough. Tomorrow I'll continue from this. Right. Thanks for joining, everyone. So I'll be uploading this here. So with this PT 365 and the so-called latest current affairs is given. You can take a break. If you have any questions, I am left with 1 minute. You can ask the questions. Tomorrow morning I will be traveling most probably. So before that itself, I'll make a video and I'll keep it. So I'll wind up. Today it is enough. 45 minutes or 40 minutes class. So some people are asking, sir, whether this is more than enough for current affairs. Whatever I am saying, that is more than enough for current affairs. You can bank upon your static component in the remaining days. So 40-45 minutes, more than that I am not going to take the class. Right guys, all the best for your preparation. Take care. I am winding up the session then.